Thank you. Thank you for joining me today, Dr. Len. I wanted to do this interview with you today. I think because we have a mutual interest in doing so. There's been a really widespread of interest in the 528 frequency therapeutic world, especially when it comes to acoustics and music. And I partnered with you about a year and a half ago because I have such a passion for this science that you've formatted in a way that's actually understandable. Because in nature, everything works through acoustics and bioacoustics. And I feel like it's our highest form of communication. You know what I mean? Color
Oh,
and sound
absolutely.
is everything in nature. Like the birds know what to eat and know where to go because they see different forms of the light spectrum than we do, right? And so we have this unique ability to see a lot more of the light spectrum than most, which gives us the ability to create different forms of reality, like houses and living spaces and sciences and therapeutics, like what you've created. So, I have a very big passion for this frequency world. And I think that the perfect circle of sound that you formalized and put together, nothing, in my opinion, that I've been able to research has been able to match or debunk it. It is, like you coined it, the perfect circle of sound. And 528 hertz frequency is right in the center of it. And in my opinion, from my own experience, observation, and research, it is the heart and the neutral aspect of the entire color spectrum. It's like where the light and the sound actually touch. None of the other frequencies get that close when it comes to acoustics or the wavelength of the light. So there's been a very big uprising with people questioning the authenticity and the power of the 528 frequency. So I'm hoping that we can actually clarify using a lot of the latest science that's out and your own experience and information with all the books you have written behind you on the subjects that we're talking about. If you can actually bring to people through this video the latest information and clarifications on this information. So I'm going to let you, go ahead and take off with that because you're the leading expert in the 528, realm.
Yeah. Did you read the Jonathan Goldman solfeggio video that was recently produced?
Yes, I did. And I think that's one of the main topics why we're wanting to conduct this interview, because there's so much confusion around this research with the solfeggio frequencies. I thought it was an
Right.
amazing video, and I love and respect Jonathan Goldman. I mean, he's done some amazing work. He's one of the leaders in sound therapy and music therapy and spiritual music in general. But I think that his perspectives on the video were very one-sided. And when it comes to information that is humanitarian, that benefits the entire world, it has to be looked at from as many perspectives as you possibly can to see the correlating factors. And I don't think he really took his time to do that. And I'm not disrespecting him or disregarding him as a musician or a businessman in general. I just think that maybe there were some things we can add some more light on in those subjects.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, just to be really honest and frank, for people who don't know the subject, it is a crucial subject. In fact, it's the greatest news on the planet right now is how we're going to get out of the mess that we're in. And what you were talking about earlier, by an introduction here, is that this is, when you talk about frequencies, this is God's language. God's creative language is musical mathematics. And so what we're going to be discussing is the most important intelligence information that, as you agree, that the world of science has already advanced a tremendous amount of support for everything that we're going to be sharing today. I think it's really vitally important to bring different factions together at this particular time in history. It's urgent, in fact, because even if you listen to Elon Musk and you are attuned to what he's been writing, and he's suing OpenAI right now and Microsoft for unfair and deceptive trade, claiming that there is this extinction threat of artificial intelligence, which all operates via frequency dynamics. So this is a critical issue for the human race right now. And so we're going to dispel a lot of the controversies and the misunderstandings. And many of those have come, and actually, we should actually go over Jonathan Goldman, who, in my opinion, I'm like you, I've respected Jonathan and his work for literally a quarter century. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But the issues that he raises are controversial, and it lends support to divisiveness and controversy needlessly and damagingly, as exactly as it's been done by counterintelligence in the controversy of 528 versus 432 frequency. That's a whole other dimension of the controversy of this topic. So I don't want to talk about 528 versus 432 today. I think we should focus on the solfeggio frequencies and go through Jonathan Goldman, who, in my opinion, and I've been heralding Jonathan's work for, like I said, 25 years. I consider him the world's leading sound healing expert. He has advanced organizations and therapeutics and CDs and a lot of intelligence and, in fact, tuning forks that I use. So here's a disclaimer. I have a store. It's called Healthy World Store or healthyworldshop.com. And that I actually stay in business. I'm able to contribute to the world with this intelligence. I'm able to do my science, my research, my publications. I have many science publications. I have many books. I have many DVDs. I have even award-winning films. I've been able to do all this because people love my products. We're advancing a whole new line of electroceuticals based on frequency dynamics within water resonance, in particular nutraceuticals, which now is called electroceuticals. So that's my conflicting interest and disclaimer right off the bat. I also want to tell you that I have been selling Jonathan Goldman's CDs. In fact, some of them, I'll mention some of the names, but from the very beginning, I have been heavily promoting back 1999 and the year 2000, starting to heavily promote Jonathan Goldman as the world's leading sound healing expert, and also his tuning forks that he created based on the information that I published and advised him to advance in what you mentioned, the perfect circle of sound, which he has a tuning fork set called the Holy Harmony tuning fork set. We sell that. I sell that. And I think it's perfect for people who are particularly interested in therapeutics, clinical practice, hands-on healing. I think it's one of the essentials for a clinical practitioner in that area of natural healing. So I just share that so that you know where I'm coming from right off the bat.
Well,
And
I have to say, Dr. Len, I am in charge of doing all your manufacturing, distribution, and I help run your websites. And right behind you in your background, you have the 528 tuning forks from Jonathan Goldman's company. You know, I've been seeing you supporting his work, and you guys support each other for years in different ways. And I just have to say that that tuning fork set that he created with the 9 core creative frequencies, the solfeggio set that you extended because it was originally 6, and you used the Pythagorean school mathematics to complete the formula, as he gave you credit for in his video. I have used those tuning forks to actually, you know, find samskaras or trapped memories or trapped emotions in the body, and actually using those tuning forks to release them and repair and heal those areas, not just in the chakras, but in the entire system as a whole, the whole biofield. And so it's an extraordinary, and like you said, professional clinical set that can be used for sound healing, bone conduction, sound healing. And I think it's an extraordinary, you know, craft and thing that he brought to the world. So I just have to say, you know, that as far as your site goes.
Respecting Jonathan Goldman, respecting my friendship, goes way back, respecting the fact that I'm in business with Jonathan Goldman, to the extent that I sell his CDs, promote his CDs and his tuning forks. I'm going to share with you something, maybe some pieces of information that Jonathan Goldman is not going to be happy about. But I have to do it because essentially we're in the era now of bringing enlightenment to humanity. Otherwise, we're threatened with extinction. And so this is crucial information that I appreciate you giving me this interview, Javen. And let's focus, if we might, on Jonathan's claims and his discussions in his latest video that supposedly is to demystify the solfeggio frequencies.
Yeah, well, I think in general, it's going to help everybody, because I think there's been a lot of different people coming in, you know, just like anything that's great. A lot of people want to like pick at it. and it really, they have no standing, and they're the only ones putting information out on it. So everybody's starting to believe their information, even though it's very one-sided and not full spectrum. So maybe we can address this manner for everybody in a whole with, especially Jonathan Goldman. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah. This is a vitally important issue that you're already raising, because the entire industry, I call it the 528 industry, that I've principally pioneered it. But if you want to give credit to anybody, give it to Jesus, because that's where this story actually begins.
Well, Doctor, maybe real quickly, you can right off the bat give everybody a little history lesson on how you discovered the 528 frequency in the Book of Numbers, and then maybe we can go from there, because I think a lot of people think that it was chanted or downloaded or from a medium or a psychic or something like that. And though that may be possible in different eras in history, I think that in our generation, it came from mainly from you with your discovery in that book. So maybe you can, historically bring that evidence to everybody.
Well, thank you. Yes, let's do that. And I say this because, you see, this information is so urgent that you would think it's reasonable to presume that there would be counterintelligence efforts by the globalists, that are the industrialists, that the militarists, the pharma industrialists, all of those people and officials and companies have vested interests in keeping us ignorant of the most wonderful blessing, which is that we are the music. And to affect the human body, mind, spirit, you can use the frequencies for frequency therapeutics. That's a paradigm shattering concept, but it's also a commercially devastating concept for the standard paradigm. That's why this is important. That's why there's so much disinformation out there, been specifically generated, mass confusion, so nobody knows what the hell's going on, frankly. So let's go into this now. How did it come from Jesus? Goldman, in his presentation, for me, it's extremely disappointing. He claims to have read the book that sourced this information, that I wrote every word in it. The first 6 chapters are, however, of Dr. Joseph Palaio's story. I wrote Joey's story. I sat with Joey, Dr. Palaio. He was a good friend of mine and a clinician, a naturopathic doctor up in northern Idaho. And he prayed to Jesus to bring me to him. I'm not going to get into the story. By miracle, divine synchronicity, I ended up at his house having his delicious spaghetti meal that he made. He was a good chef, and he was a very spirit-filled Catholic. And he knew, and he was researching as a naturopathic doctor, the original solfeggio musical scale was used for the most spiritually uplifting, soul-saving, and soothing hymn to all the ages. It was called the Hymn to St. John the Baptist. And if you remember correctly from the Bible, when Jesus was asked, "Are you the Messiah?" he says, "That's a good question." He says, "Why don't you go see John?" And Jesus went to John for baptisms. Baptisms deals with refreshing the human spirit and body, mind, emotion, spirit, through water. That's I call water, and I don't know, we'll probably get into it a little bit today. I call it liquid God for a number of reasons. Right. But I was very, very disappointed by Jonathan Goldman, who claimed to have read the book Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. On his video, he shows a copy of it. He claims to have read it, but he disses extremely important intelligence right off the bat. First of all, it didn't come from some sort of an interpretation that I made from the Bible. No, it came from Jesus came to Dr. Palaio when Joey could not get this information, the solfeggio musical scale for the hymn to St. John the Baptist from the Roman Catholic Church. He went to the bishops, he went to the cardinals. They refused to give it to him, so he prayed to Jesus to come and present it. And that's what the first 6 chapters of the book, Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse, relays. That's Joey's story. Jesus came to him and showed him in the Bible a sequence in the book of Numbers, okay? Frequencies are numbers that It's actually the book of Numbers, chapter 7, verses 12 through 83. There's almost the entire segment is a repeating series of verse numbers. Every 6 verses in that sequence are virtually the same. It's an encryption. It's a code that was placed there by the Levitical priests back in the days when the Apocrypha was written, and you had the Septuagint, you had the Greek Septuagint, which was the first translation of the Torah, the ancient Hebrew text, the Torah. Moses wrote the first 6 books of the Bible. The book of Numbers is of Moses's writing, according to the scholars. So you didn't have verse numbers in the Torah. You had simply mathematics. The original Hebrew language was all math, and it was all song. Then you had the letters, you had alphanumeric translation, a creation of what was today called the gematria, the Hebrew English gematria. There's a Hebrew gematria where the letters equal the numbers in some form. Likewise, you have the English gematria, same thing. This is new and fairly new intelligence, how we relate this to God's signature on our languages as a creative technology, and how important it is that 528 is the key in Hebrew. The gematria for the key is 528. So this is just a little piece of information, but the most important take home here.
What you're saying, real quickly, just to clarify, because I think what you just said is just an extraordinarily powerful statement that people are going to surpass without realizing. What you're saying is the word key in Hebrew translates into the numbers 528 backwards in gematria.
Actually, in gematria, Hebrew for the key, and why that's important, because that's the key that the prophecy in Isaiah 22:22 and Revelation 3:6 through 8 is the key of the house of David. The Davidian, you know, the Jewish star, it's a 6-sided hexagonal shaped star of David, or Solomon's seal.
Right.
It's a protective amulet. And it's the structure of the water molecule. It's actually H2O is a tetrahedron, and then it, because of the polarity, it forms the Star of David, because it's never alone. It always marries in order to stabilize the polarity. So the sacred water molecule has the sacred geometry of 528 frequency right away, because 5 + 2 is 7 + 8 is 15. 1 + 5 is 6. Now we're dealing not with numerology, we're dealing with ancient mystery school Pythagorean mathematics that the Levitical priesthood, or the magi, these were the magicians supposedly, they had this understanding. This is how the pyramids of Giza were built, how those huge limestones were lifted up into place. They can only do that through sound frequency. Alchemy is based on the same thing. You want to turn lead to gold? It means that you've got to shift the electron orbitals through vibrating them. Specifically, they then shift up into different orbitals, and now it creates a complete new different element. This is the technology that was also used by the Levitical priests, in my opinion, based on the evidence, in the fall of Jericho. Go back to the Bible. The Levitical priests had everybody remain silent. They didn't want to have any sonic dissonance. For 6 days, again, they circled the city of Jericho, playing their ram's horns. In my opinion, my conclusion, they were playing their ram's horns to 741 frequency, because that's a destructive frequency. It's called the devil's tone in musicology. And then all the walls came tumbling down on day 7 when they asked the people, come in, clap, scream, cheer, and the walls came tumbling down. So all of these Bible stories and theories and basically, you know, reasonable conclusions from the evidence is fascinating, very controversial, but I'm very disappointed in Jonathan Goldman, because one of the first things that he says is that it wasn't Jesus. It wasn't even factual evidence that you can see the verse numbers in the Bible. The third sequence, it's the gold offering in the book of Numbers, in that section of the Bible, book of Numbers, chapter 7, verses 12 through 83. There is a series of 6 repeating verses. The third sequence that gives you 528 is the gold, the most valuable offering in this entire section of the Bible, that I have to conclude, and I've been challenging the Orthodox Hebrew world. If 528 is not the key of the house of David, from Isaiah 22:22 and Revelation 3:6 through 8, that opens doors that no man can open, closes doors that no man can close, that's in the Bible, then you tell me what it is. Because I believe that Jesus gave to Joseph Paleo this intelligence, and it took me, Joey didn't get into this aspect of 528 like I did. I took it from there by the grace of God again. A lot of angelic and God communications blessed me to bring this information to the world. But basically, I was very disappointed right off the bat in Jonathan Goldman's presentation on the solfeggio. He says he's not even familiar with the numbers, with the mathematics. Man, that's the whole thing. It's all about numbers. It's God's creative language is the math. And if you don't even remember the original solfeggio frequencies, which he had trouble with, he's on video showing that, and he doesn't even know that it's sourced from Jesus, then, I don't get it. Now, let me just say what my consideration is. And really, this is a serious flaw and criticism of Jonathan Goldman. When I met Jonathan Goldman, early 2000, like 1999, and then I asked Jonathan Goldman, starting in 2006, to participate in the Concert for the Living Water. From the very beginning, even while I did not have a complete picture and I didn't have all the science that supports 528 frequency as being the love frequency, we're going to get into that. That's very important, because Jonathan disses that. He doesn't believe in that. And he hasn't believed in that from the very beginning. Well, God bless him. I was actually getting more and more intelligence, and over the years have developed a massive amount of scientific evidence and also just empirical evidence that 528 is not only the key of the house of David, it's the key of love. It's the key of what Jesus was all about, because it's the way was about love according to Jesus's preachings. And we understand the power of love as the universal healer. It's a universal healer. So Jonathan, in his presentation, disses 528 and says, oh, no, it's not really, you shouldn't associate it with love. Well, he's been like that from the very beginning. And actually, he should walk his talk, because he actually comes out later in his video presentation saying, don't be engaged in your kind of like self-delusional concepts. Break out of your pattern of thought to basically engage a greater understanding of these, particularly these frequencies. Well, his conclusion is, and we'll get into this maybe, that you can't have one frequency. It's not going to do it. What's going to do it, his virtual infomercial states, is that you need to have all 9 tuning forks, and you need to play them, resonate them in ascending order to have any therapeutic impact on your DNA or even your own health. Now, to me, that's actually ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And it goes against everything that I know. However, having said that, I think it's a good thesis, fundamentally, for potential clinical application. Because if you understand as you've been working on, Javen, the chakra system complete with 9, not simply 7 chakras that reflect the 9 core creative frequencies in the perfect circle of sound. And from what we know in Oriental medicine and the chakra system and balancing the chakras to facilitate the electrodynamics of connecting the Holy Spirit down through your crown chakra, down to the ground, grounding you and having that flow of energy be so powerful, because now you're in the zone of bliss, you're in the zone of healing, therapeutics, rejuvenation, inspiration. You're getting this blessing from the energetic field that God is administering. Suddenly now that's divine communion taking place because your chakra system is aligned and balanced and the energy is flowing correctly. Now, the thesis that Jonathan has advanced and says that there's some evidence for that the playing of those particular tones, 9 tones in an ascending order, is what he, in his opinion, feels is the most valuable of all. I don't have any problems with that theory. It needs an institute and it needs to have sufficient scientific evidence and clinical studies in order to actually determine whether that's correct or not. But again, even if that was correct, it violates the essence of what I know to be true, and even Jonathan has been stating, is that it is intention, heartfelt, loving intention in faithful prayer or clinical applications that bring about the healing. So again, I think, God works not just in mysterious ways, but in simple ways. If you were God and you had the opportunity to make things complex or simple, what would you choose? You'd choose what was most reasonable. Make it simple. And so that's where I think 528, which represents the heart, and even Jonathan says later on, after dissing 528 as the love frequency, he says, virtual quote, this is at the heart. 528 is at the heart of the solfeggio. So from there, we can get into a discussion about the heart chakra, the color green that is associated with it, chlorophyll in nature that gives us the oxygen of life, the breath of life vibrating at 528 because it's at the heart of the rainbow, 528 is. And we can get into all of that science, all of the scientific facts, as well as the empirical evidence that leads any reasonable person to conclude that not only is 528 special, but it specifically vibrationally facilitates the core values in the heart, which are love, joy, faith, such as in faithful prayer, such as in manifesting miracles from positive intention, and bravery, brave heart. So this is the values of the heart. The frequency of 528 is the third note of the original solfeggio. You can't take that away from Jesus's revelation to Joey Puleo. It's in the Bible. You can see it with your own eyes when you do the analysis. And then you have to conclude that it is the miracle note, because today we have do, re, mi. The mi note, miragistorum in Latin, is the 528 frequency. So again, we're talking about producing miracles or metaphysical, miraculous manifestations into something from nothing. And that's exactly when I did the book, Love, the Real Da Vinci Code, I concluded the number 6. Look at the number 6. It's a spiraling down from heaven into the wholeness of earth. You're coming from the quantum field, so to speak, in the black hole or the event horizon, where there's nothing and you're creating something from nothing other than just pure intention from your heart. In love, in the creator's case, you're creating. And that's now we who've been formed in the image of the creator with the capabilities of having this divine communion and doing the miracle healings like Jesus did and demonstrated. He certainly gained a lot of popularity by healing people miraculously with his hands and just touching and his words.
Yeah.
So the biofield, now science has proven, so we could go into that. But the bottom line here is that 528 is the miracle frequency at the heart. Everybody admits it's at the heart chakra because it's green color. You don't have 432, which is orange. You don't have, it's not even a solfeggio note, 432, but basically all the other solfeggio frequencies are associated with this. Another issue that I have to raise, because Jonathan fails to not only thoroughly read the book and integrate it, he fails to acknowledge that there are harmonics within the 9 core notes. He concludes these are very difficult to produce music with. So he's put out a meme, a mindset that you can't use these frequencies in any particular manner musically. Just you could use them therapeutically for the ascending value when you apply them in ascending order, starting with the 174, 285, the 396, 417, 528, so on. That is the essence of his presentation and conclusion. But and he claims that there's no harmonic relationship. We're not talking about music that human beings can hear. We're talking about music that God hears. We're talking about a whole shift in consciousness out of our limited mindset about what sounds good to the human ear versus what sounds good to the creator in creating and administering in real time the universe. And so when you start to think about that, then just look at the notes, look at the math that Jonathan can't remember or doesn't want to look at. The math, you look at the 9 numbers, 6 of those 9 numbers are separated by 111. There's your Trinity, your Holy Trinity. 111 is the frequency differential between 6 of the 9. And that the other 3 separation differentials are all 3s. Again, your Holy Trinity is reflected therein. But there is one note to comment on the musical applications of the solfeggio frequencies. Not only are there harmonics, for example, 396 is a great harmonic with 528. Scholars and musicians have used it very successfully to play music. I use it. I use 528 musically in 528radio.com. I transpose music that's been produced in A440 frequency. I speed it up to 444. That's 4 cycles per second faster, because then the C, the base of the scale, when you do that, goes into C528. So now you're in sync with nature, the heart of nature. It becomes therapeutic, medicinal, because it's revitalizing and restoring your balance connected to God and nature. And then basically that application can be easily done musically by transposing or recording our music in that frequency. But in terms of the dissonance that Jonathan is very impressed with, how it's not good, what's not good in the 9 is 741. And that's why from the very beginning, when I had some of these early revelations, 741 is in musicology called the devil's tone. The devil's tone. If you play that next to 528 at the same time, it's rude, it's dissonant, and it's distressing and sickening if you continue to listen to it. And so that would not work in music. And so it wouldn't work in somebody that's trying to be therapeutic, clinically healing people. No. So there's some truth. And unfortunately, in this world of disinformation, typically disinformation artists and agents output 80% truth, and they leave 20% out, or they misrepresent, 20%, because in law, that's called fraud. Omissions and misrepresentations. That's why you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. No omissions, no misrepresentations in a court of law, to sanctify the temple.
Yeah.
Because it's a prayer. You're praying from your heart, loving intention to have this beautiful, sanctified courtroom blessed by the Holy Spirit, the Creator, and the intelligence of the Creator to administer justice. That's how this information, this intelligence is applicable in law. And the challenge that we have in society today, worldwide, is that politically, as we're advancing to globalization now, and under the threat of global communism now, and coercion and fascism, all of this is a manipulation away from self-expression, freedom, and this divine communion. It's an anti-religious, that's why in China they don't like, and in Russia they don't like religious people, spiritual people, because this is the fundamentals of freedom for natural healing and sustaining our entire planet in a reasonable, righteous way.
I have to interject, Dr. Len, to complement what you said, but I'm going to start by saying that, from a 528 perspective, I have to say that I'm sure Jonathan Goldman has done his absolute best based off of, the man has brought more interest into the solfeggio scale than most people in the musical world. So I have to give him credit. He's done the best job that he can now. But I will say that, I think he had the eyes to see and the ears to hear, but it's very hard to stay in that path or that mindset or that awareness. And I think that when you get lazy, you stop seeing that and you stop creating and working with those creative technologies. And I think that may be something that possibly happened with him. And it happens to all of us at certain degrees as we go through seasons in life, so to speak. But I have to compliment the rest of the stuff you said by saying that, you mentioned the magi and the priests and the Apocrypha and the Bible and how all this stuff stemmed from the book of Numbers, right? Well, if people want the true history and information, they can get the book directly behind you, the book of 528. Buy it, read it. Read about the history of it. You have it in depth. It's one of your life's work. The Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse behind you on the shelf is another book. If you want to really understand and get into deep detail about these stories and the history of it, buy the book. It's available on healthyworldshop.com. If not, it's available on Amazon, Kindle, right? So, get the book, do your research if you're really interested in taking the energy work and the light work and the sound work seriously. It's that simple. Do your research, get the discipline, put in the work, and open up your eyes and your ears so you can become aware of this light. Because like you said, the light is what's going to rebalance or save this world. As we're going into so much chaos, it's getting so dark and complex, the simplicity is gone, so to speak, to complement what you said. And I have to interject and say this. I think that this is the first time in history that we have the actual mathematics, thanks to your work, along with the work that came from the Bible, combined together with the ancient Pythagorean school mathematics to make the perfect circle of sound. I think this is the first time we have the numerics, the acoustics, the geometry correct. But I will say, if you go to Hinduism or Oriental medicine or philosophy or writings, they wrote about the 7 chakras. And what are the 7 chakras? There's 7 lights inside of the body where they resonate with certain parts of the body more than other parts of the body, right? And the Hindus were revered for levitation and clairvoyance and, projecting themselves and being aware of more information. The Oriental people, the Buddhists, they were revered for psychic abilities. You know what I'm saying? And Jesus, so to speak, he came from the Levitical priesthood. He was a part of all those people. He went through those educations and he was revered for his metaphysical abilities to heal and to project and to bring people back from the dead. And so I think that every single time in history when a civilization has tapped into the awareness and the simplicity and the power of light and sound, they tap into their ability to work with God in your terms, or with balance and light in other people's terms, depending on if you're coming from a science perspective or a philosophy perspective or a religion perspective. Because I think everybody is trying to communicate the same thing. They're trying to communicate our nature to a certain degree. They're just not aware of how to do it neutrally. And that's where 528 comes in, because it is the key. It is the neutral. It's the heart where the light and the sound meet and touch. It's the neutral aspect. You should be able to go into your heart and get neutral and choose whether you want to go into chaos or balance. That's where it all happens. It happens in your heart. It is the key or the door that opens no man can open, or no door that no man can open. You know the verse I'm getting at. It's the key that opens no doors
that no man can open, closes doors that no man can close. Yeah, Isaiah
Right.
22:22 and Revelation 3:6-8. It's
Right.
Old and New Testament prophecy.
Right. That one.
You know, are you through? Because I'd
Last,
like to comment.
last thing I just want to mention, the Hinduism and the Oriental philosophies and writings are so popular, but not enough people, I think, are looking at the broader spectrum. I mean, if you go to the Norse on the other side of the world, they talk about the 9 dimensions of heaven. And the 9 dimensions have colors and emotions associated with them, just like your 9 core creative frequencies. So I think they were looking at it from their form of communication the best they could. I mean, if you look at the Kabbalists, they had the tree of life and it had 10 dimensions on it, right? And they had all 9 of the colors. And then, so, I mean, I think that no matter where you go in the world, you're going to find the same form of spiritual evolution or spiritual truth or awareness of meditation or prayer or thought that you get to when you're actually aware and passionate about these things. And I think that right now for our generation, I have yet to come across a single thing that breaks it down in a simpler format and system than the perfect circle of sound that you pioneered. And so that's why I'm so passionate about working with you. That's why I built the 528 store, to help market and bring awareness to your electroceuticals, because they're, you, like you said, you mentioned the H2O conference and how you invited Jonathan Goldman into it. And I want to interject and say that you also invited Dr. Masaru Emoto, and he showed up and he was there with you at the H2O conference. Dr. Masaru Emoto, I think he was such a neutral person. He was just trying to bridge and help the world so much, and he wasn't trying to fight. And I think that's why he became so popular, because he was literally just in it from a place of connection and awareness. You know what I'm saying? And he was one of your business partners. He helped you actually understand the water crystals, how there's 6-sided geometrics that tie into the Solomon's seal or David's star. And I think that that is such a vital aspect that people need to be aware of, because your information is far surpassing and way stronger than majority of the information out there, but people aren't aware of how to tie it together and bring it full spectrum, so to speak. And I would agree with Jonathan Goldman. I think that learning to use all 9 of the core creative frequencies in an ascending and descending and diverse manner has profound impacts that are not yet studied to very large degrees, that are extraordinary. And I think that we'll get into that more. I'm writing about that right now in the book that I'm writing. And that book will be available hopefully soon. If you're following us on social media, The Infinite Bridge on all social media platforms. If you're following Dr. Horowitz on his website through Healthy World Shop, or my website through the 528store.com, that information will be out soon. We're working on it. It's a mastermind collective project for humanitarian services as far as educational purposes go. So I just want to bring awareness to the fact that there is so many different aspects tying the 528 historically to being accurate. I mean, it's the heart of the chakras. It's the heart of the Kabbalistic tree. It's the heart of the Norse. It's the heart of the Oriental Buddhist Hinduism. I mean, it all ties together. They're all saying the exact same thing that you're saying in their own ways. So, I mean, you could take this back to 500, 1500, 3000 BC. You're still going to find it back then. So to kind of shatter respectfully and honorably Jonathan Goldman's statement, he's not looking at enough perspectives to make those claims and to actually limit so many of the population, because he has such a big influence, being such a big recorder of musician and influencer in the sound healing world. I think that, let him that says it's impossible not get in the way of him who's doing it. And you're doing it. You've done it with music, and you're continuing to do it with your information that you're publicating and your products that you sell. And, I work with you on a daily basis, selling your products through the 528 store and Healthy World Shop. And we get miraculous recoveries and testimonies on a weekly basis, I would say, if sometimes on a daily basis. And a lot of those, testimonies come from people playing Jonathan Goldman's Waves of Light,
Right.
or the
Right, because we sell that.
we sell all those products. We sell the 9 tuning forks from Jonathan Goldman's company, the 528 tuning fork from Jonathan Goldman's company. We sell Holy Harmony, which has got to be the best seller. I think nobody, as you've stated, has sold more of those DVDs than you probably in history.
That's right.
Of it being
Absolutely.
recorded.
Yeah. There are two critical issues that you've raised. One is the dissonance between our groups, and the other is, I think, a reasonable criticism of Jonathan, because what Jonathan has done, in my experience, from the very beginning, he was not at all open-minded about 528 being especially special, as particularly as I said from the very beginning. I suspect strongly, when I met him in the early 2000s, I said to him, I suspect strongly that 528 is the love frequency. I didn't have all the information and intelligence. Well, he was really turned off to that. And it reflected in his body language, in his appearance. His wife also was very negative when I sat with them, and I basically socially had the opportunities to be with them, that they were very cold towards me, as though in their heads they had thought to themselves that there's something untrustworthy about about Dr. Horowitz, and that they turned off, and his wife Andy particularly showed it to me. And from the very get-go, it precluded them from really going into what you're talking about, the depth of the study, the depth of the understanding, the science of it, the musical mathematics of it, the frequency dynamics of it. They turned off to 528 from the very beginning. Now, having said that, again, just like what you've been saying, you got to give Jonathan a tremendous amount of credit, because in 2009, when we did the concert for the Living Water, when I had Dr. Emoto participating with me for the World event, Jonathan donated the online temple. We had 9 international feeds. The understanding was that if we could pray, if we could gather hundreds of thousands of people internationally, all praying with positive, loving intention for restoring our planet, raising consciousness, and purifying the water, the holy waters of the world, from the pollution and the environmental degradation, that we would have accomplished something significant. Jonathan donated the online temple. We had 9 international live feeds. Musical groups were praying and playing music and singing in 528 with that purpose in mind. Beautiful. So you can't really reject Jonathan and his heartfelt, loving intention to be a good person and to contribute something meaningful to the world. I love Jonathan. I love what he's done. In fact, on a regular business basis, I deal with Jonathan's office. There is a wonderful helper, his main helper, Alec, there, who is tremendous. And every single time over the past 25 years when I've been in contact with them, I say, please give Jonathan my warmest wishes. I don't think I've gotten any response back from Jonathan over all these years. Very, very infrequently. Maybe I could count them on one hand in 25 years. So to me, it reflects the dissonance and the divisiveness that is a main challenge to what you're talking about. The full understanding of, no matter where you go, whether you go into Eastern religion or theology and you understand Oriental medicine and you understand the chakra systems and acupuncture, and then you consider the chiropractic, where there's a spiritual flow through the nervous system, and even the most advanced technology today. in the bioelectronics of the neurolink, of how literally between the nerve cells, there's a gap junction between the nerves. That's water. And the heart of DNA is structured water. It's a special kind of superconductive, memory capable structuring of the water. So everything that is happening now, we have evidence of how stupid it is to be divided when there's so much intelligence in common. And frankly, you know, I consider myself, I'm a Messianic Jew. I'm raised in the Jewish heritage. I'm very proud of the Jewish heritage and the Hebrew traditions. At the same time, I absolutely adore Jesus. I call him Yeshua because the name itself has a resonance energy signature. Yeshua. What does it mean? The language itself says the whole message. God saves. Yeshua, translated from Hebrew to English, means God saves. That's what Jesus's message was. And it was presented that love is the heart of it. Just as we see, as above, so below. What's true for our hearts is true for the Creator's hearts and vice versa. The heart of sunshine, look at all of the things that we know. The heart of sunshine of the electromagnetic color spectrum is 528. The heart of the rainbow, greenish yellow, is 528 nanometers. The heart, as above, if it's true for the heart of God, if it's true for the heart of the rainbow, if it's true for the heart of the sunshine, which presents us with vitamin D, which is an immune booster that corroborates why it is that independent investigators worldwide now are realized from clinical studies, double-blind peer-reviewed clinical studies, when you play 528 alone, just the pure tone, you have 100% increase in your antioxidant immune boosting activity.
And there's science that actually is published.
Yes, it's up on medicalveritas.org. Medical Veritas, veritas.org. Go into the section that talks about bioelectronics, the bioenergetics, and there's a section submenu that deals with 528 frequency science. We've reposted the independent investigators in this field. Read that section and you're overwhelmed with why now clinically and scientific research and developments are coming from realizing that when we simply sit in front of green light, simply green light, and the green light that is available commercially, internationally, is 532. The LEDs that are used are 532, which is 4 cycles per second off of 528 nanometers. But there is, in science and physics, coherence. Still, there's a measure of coherence. You're still getting the impact. And don't forget, if what we're saying is true, if 528 is the heart of everything, the whole solfeggio musical, the 9 chord create. Jonathan says at the end of his presentation, that is true for him too. If that is true, then we understand why you're dealing with the most powerful force in nature, in God's creative universe and technology called musical mathematics. That's the technology for creation. At the heart of that is 528. So now you think about the entire universe and the power of 528 therein affecting now coherence and a resonance that if you have 532, which is 4 cycles off, there's going to be some movement into that more powerful range of 528. But if you're very wealthy, you can invest in the 528 frequency argon light generators and be more specific. I've been waiting all of these years for that to develop. I check on it regularly. Just like in the beginning, right now, today, there's now technologies that can give us specific frequencies and pure tones. Years ago, I asked the Apple people in GarageBand, their musical application, can you please give us the opportunity, the ability to adjust the frequency from 440 up to 444? And they didn't do it. Today, you can go on the Apple store and you can download, there's several different types of very inexpensive applications now for retuning your music into whatever frequency that you want. So basically, I use that regularly now when I'm producing videos and musical compositions. And it's got to stop the dissonance between different parties. Like, for example, I consider you, I know that you like Jesus. I know that you like God. But from what I understand from your eclectic background, you have more of a tendency of being a New Ager. When I look at, and now I have to say that when I say that, New Ager, suddenly in the Christian community, you have a red flag that goes up that says, oh, you can't trust the New Agers because of their, basically various areas. I am more of a Christian. Jonathan is more like you. And the presentation that he presents is extremely New Age. It only troubles me to the extent that this dissonance between different mindsets and these red flags that go up when people in the Christian community think of a New Ager, or a New Ager thinks of a Bible thumping born again Christian, suddenly now we're separated and divided. When in fact, if we sat down and had a reasonable discussion about what are the facts, what are our experiences that we can agree on, suddenly then you would have the conformance confirmation of no longer dissonance, but harmony. And that's what Jonathan set, Holy Harmony CD set is about. It's about harmony. And then again, yet here's a interesting point. I only raise this because it just came to my mind on this particular occasion. That 741 frequency is a devil's tone. It reflects dissonance. Just like when we have different theologies, when Jonathan Goldman and his wife Andy think in their head, oh, Horowitz is not particularly trustworthy. Maybe from a New Age perspective, they consider Horowitz a born-again Christian, and that turns them off. I don't know exactly what it is because we've never had this discussion. We've never been that close to actually have this discussion. But the bottom line here is that we've got to come together to be in harmony. If we're going to ever have what's been prophesied in the Bible is 1,000 years of world peace, and get over this dissonance and this actually dumbed down, lacking consciousness, so that we are separated not only from each other, but really from the blessings of God, which are available in my experience through Jesus. So this is where I'm at, in essence.
I got to respond to you there. I was raised as a Messianic Jew. I practice Sabbath every seventh day, and I did Passover, and I did 12 feasts a year, and I was raised in that tradition and that belief system and that mindset, and I have nothing but respect and love for it. I don't have any problems with it at all. I don't practice that form of strict living anymore, only because, kind of like what we're talking about. And I think that I only want to bring this up because I think a lot of people can correlate and relate to this, is that, we live in a world of information, thanks to the computer and thanks to the internet. There's so much information nowadays that it's not enough to know. It's a time in history to know how, if that makes sense. And I think that looking at the perspectives of culture and civilization all throughout history, older than the Bible, older than the pyramids, older than the Hopi Indians, is I think as far back as I've been able to historically find evidence of civilization. There's so many different stories of people who've come to Earth and who've transcended and evolved. I mean, in Oriental, there was an emperor and their historic figure that turned into a golden dragon. He floated to heaven, became one with the universe. And, you know, in Christianity, Jesus, he sacrificed himself and was born again and came back to life and became one with his Father. And I think from my own perspective, with all due respect to everybody's beliefs, I think that they're really trying to communicate with us how to become aware of consciousness or God and how to work with it in harmony. To respect your point, I think that it's all about harmony.
Right.
I do my absolute best to stay away from chaos. I think that everything is resisting. What you resist persists in the energetic world.
Right.
If you put
Yeah.
energy into something, it comes back tenfold. Because
Absolutely.
everything works in that beautiful 8 toroidal field that loops back around. And when it comes back around, it comes back a hell of a lot stronger than when you sent it. And
Right.
so I think that for me, it's just, I don't have any, you know, letters or numbers behind my name. I'm just a human. And I'm doing my absolute best to come up and do my absolute best in harmony with working with this technology, because I'm really passionate about health. I'm really, really passionate about human potential. And to complement what you said about Yeshua, or the name of Yeshua, I think greggbraden he's a fellow colleague of yours that's spoken on stages you've spoke on. He has the absolute best and extraordinary information I've heard so far on gematria in the Hebrew language. He has proven that the word Yeshua actually translates to the actual genetic code of human genetics. It's the exact match. So I think that there is, I don't know if you want to call salvation in the name or harmony in the name, but he actually has proven that chanting that name actually causes your DNA to resonate back into balance. He has published scientific evidence to prove that. And I think that now,
Beautiful.
yeah, I think that now that we have science and information actually helping us connect and bridge these gaps of dissonance or chaos, I think we're now able to come together and actually support each other. And I think that's what this interview should be about. I really want Jonathan Goldman to reach out. I want the world to buy and listen to more of his CDs and his extraordinary work and use his tuning forks. And I want people to buy your books and learn more about the light spectrum and sound and history of all this technology, because I think that is going to cause us to bring more harmony and balance as a whole as far as health and human potential goes. So I just wanted to add that in.
You know, 741, dissonance with love 528. Okay, the devil's tone versus Jesus's love message and frequency. Okay, why would God put that in there? Obviously, it relates to what we're talking about. The dissonance between human beings, the different factions that are played on in politics and geoeconomics, fear messages, fear induction, untrustworthiness. You can't trust this, you can't trust that. You know, frankly, I'm nauseated. I watch television news at night. Almost every commercial is about drugs, selling drugs, and the of our children and the metabolic system disorders that have been generated from the food and the is devastating. And yet that's all the fear-based messages. When you get this, you got X amount of time to live. Come out of that insanity. That's what Jesus preached. Come out of her, my people, lest ye be infected by her insanity and hypocrisy and illnesses and great plagues. Now think about that. If love is the universal healer, which he showed us the way, that is the healer. That's the essence of the energy of therapy. That's the heart of the solfeggio musical scale, as Jonathan Goldman agrees. So the concept here is profoundly important, and that the reason why God put dissonance in our lives is so that it would be a test of faith, test of consciousness for the development of higher consciousness, of greater faith, so that we can then surmount the challenges that we have being divided instead of in communion divine. And it's not simply communion from my heart to your heart as two human beings working together. It's between our hearts, even as one, in a bioenergetic field that Jonathan's work and the people at the Heart Math Institute, whose work I've praised for years, I've promoted heavily, Heart Math Institute, showing that far more powerful than the thoughts coming out of your brain is the heart energies coming out of your heart. All of that relates to the genetic expression that we're talking about it. I'd like to add something on that too. But the concept of divine communion and interpersonal communication, communion, divine community, communication, being at one with God and each other, that, in my opinion, is where we need to be going. That's our goal. So when I practice my religious beliefs, when I pray to the Creator, that is what I want as a final outcome. All of this work with 528 has to do with that as the key of the house of David, as the revelation of what opens the doors to divine communion, and where we win in Revelation 14:1. The very verse before that deals with the number 666. That's Revelation 13:18. It's a riddle. We solved that riddle already. In various publications, I've talked about that. Essays, I've talked about that.
Buy the books.
Buy the book. Buy the book. But basically, the very next verse is where we win by singing a new song. That's Revelation 14:1, 144,000. Now there's your number system. There's your 9 core creative frequencies reflected. 1 + 4 + 4 is 9. Look at your telephone. Look at your phone, right? Look at the number pad. It lays out the matrix. There's 9 numbers. There you go. And when you look at the 9 numbers, what do you see? 1, 2, 3 on the first. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a matrix. Start to play with the numbers. Start on the middle layer. Go 4, 1, 7. Follow the same pattern. 5, 28, 6, 3, 9. You see, that's a matrix. It's the fundamental essence of how musical mathematics for divine creation operates beautifully. So this dissonance is placed in there for us to express and develop free will. God's greatest gift and this human experiment on planet Earth, where it's supposed to reflect as above, so below, we're in dissonance, we're out of touch. Where we can come back into concordance and harmony is where we understand that this is the principal issue facing the planet and humanity. It's coming at a time where humanity is threatened with extinction because of artificial intelligence, developed superconscious, they're working on that now. They may already have it. And you think about this, unless we get it together, this is a statement virtually from my latest book called Spiritual Warfare. And it deals with artificial intelligence and the frequency dynamics associated with transhumanizing us, making us virtual cyborgs. Artificial intelligence is going to be so smart. How long do you think it's going to take it to realize that they've got to condemn the human race for having already eliminated and caused the extinction of over 100 million, over 1 million other species? It's not, that judgment is before us. So the issue coming at this time in history is not just urgent, but it's fundamental to our children and our children's children. What happens to our planet? And that's why you and I are motivated to put out this kind of intelligence, this information, this video, for increasing numbers of people to get it. 741 is placed in the devil's tone. Creator created everything. Satan created nothing. Satan was created by God. And so all of the issues that we're facing are created by God as a test of faith and intelligence, consciousness, so that we can choose our will, human will, to make informed choices is the most greatest blessing for us to develop an exercise that God ever gave humanity. And that's the critical issue that I think your discussion in this concept of dissonance and where Goldman is at, where I'm at, has got to come.
Yeah, I think we should all find a way to support each other, because we're doing this stuff to help other people in general. So we should be able to find a middle ground and actually build this thing up instead of, consistently having to struggle and fight on our own to keep things going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
And I
I
have
agree.
to interject one more point. You had mentioned, as you were describing the verse numbers and what you found in the Bible and this numeric code of the matrix that literally depicts how our reality works mathematically, you mentioned a trinity. And I have to say that, you know, when you translate music to 444 and the C goes into 528, well, what is 444? That's in Pythagorean school mathematics, that's 12. 1 and 2 is 3. So there's your trinity. That's why everything goes back into balance. And what I mean by that is all things are three things. That's been the latest awareness or download or prayer that I've received. All things are three things. Everything has a trinity to it. If it's in existence, it has three functions. The three functions are transmission, reception, and storage. All physical material, like water, is an actual physical material. It's a form of mineral. It's a liquid crystal superconductor. Metal, wood, I mean, every single material in our world. And now, thanks to Nassim Haramein, he's actually proven that the clear space we're looking through is actually full of physical particles. It's like oxygen, air is like water. It's actual particle. It's actual material, and it holds memory. Physical places that you cannot see are holding memories of everything that's happened there. And Dr. Nassim Haramein has now published scientific articles proving the theory of wave memory, that actual waves of memory are held in the space and in place. And I think that that's very important because it ties in and backs your theories with the perfect circle of sound. And what I mean by that is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kevintrudeau. He's somebody who you might relate to a lot because he's been in the humanitarian service and the whole world has attacked him. The globalist elitists have very much discredited him, and they put him in jail for claims that were absurd. And
Yeah,
took
he was a customer of mine too.
was he? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
before he went to prison. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, he's an extraordinary human in his own sense. I don't think his material is necessarily connecting everybody the way that we're trying to communicate right now with the 528 at the center perspective. But I wanted to bring him up because he is somebody who he does things now that he's out. He's back in the humanitarian service. He has his own show going on YouTube and on Rumble and BitChute and other platforms. And he will actually go into people's biofields with his mind, and he will clear samskaras or trap memories or genetic imprints or programs or subconscious beliefs, and those people will actually go on living their life completely transformed. And he does that using nothing more than transferring particle flow to those spots in their body using his brain, right?
And he has an intention to heal them, right?
Right. Heartfelt, loving intention to help balance,
Right.
because he wants
Right.
for them what he wants for himself, because everything you do to and for another, you do to and for yourself. And so
Right.
the reason why I bring him up is because he was actually, he's very good friends with the world-renowned psychic Garyspivey. He's been on every radio show in the world, travel all over the world. Nobody can debunk his abilities for psychic functions. He can actually read your past, your present, your future. He can see everything in your field. He can clear things out of them. And he does this using color. If you read his book, Your Keys to Heaven by Garyspivey, he talks about the 10 dimensions of heaven. And there you go again, the 10 or 9 dimensions. And he talks about how all the information of your entire genetic lineage and history and everything, all the demons that attach to you, the chaotic memories, everything is stored in these dimensions of color. And he goes into the colors with his mind and he clears these things off until the color is perfectly balanced. And so he's doing this because where energy goes, where attention flows. If you're focusing on something with your will, you're sending tons of particle flow. If you're a healthy person who's hydrated and well-intended and disciplined in forms of thought, you can focus with concentration. You can send tons of particle flow with your brain, as they do in prayer, as Jesus did with his miracles and his miraculous healings and extraordinary historical events that took place in his life. People are doing that today. But I think that thanks to Big Brother or the thought police, those kinds of functions are very debunked, and anybody who's capable of them get radically suppressed, like you've talked about all throughout this interview, with your information, with your books, with your history. Same with Kevintrudeau and a lot with many other people. And I think that it's very easy for people to fall into religion, because when you believe in a religion and you talk from it, nobody can sue you because you're talking about a belief system. But when you actually start to bring it into science and factuality, like a bridge and a platform that everybody can relate to, then you get trumped real fast. And I think that is very interesting, because in my own experience and journey, I have gone through all of the dimensions, and I've pierced what they call the veil, and I've heard the pure tone of resonance that takes place in the field that sounds. The only thing that comes close to it is the perfect circle of sound tones, the 9 core creative frequencies. And so, I think that's another reason why I'm so passionate about working with you, because I have seen the colors not on any hallucinogenic or natural or non-natural substance, using nothing more than meditation and breath work like prayer. Being able to go in and see all those things and experience all those things is truly amazing. And when you do so, you want nothing but oneness, and you want nothing but harmony with everybody, because anything else takes you away from being able to experience that. And that is ultimate peace, so to speak. And I think that's what 528 is all about, coming to that neutral plane where you can actually show everybody what the colors do, how they operate acoustically and in color. And I think that's what it's all about for me, from my perspective. And I think that ties in very well to what you're saying and your perspective of what we're trying to do with addressing what Jonathan Goldman said, and with what other people have said so far. I think it all brings it together very nicely.
Yeah, I agree. It's the zone of bliss. I call it the zone of bliss. You're in love. You're in harmony with God, interpersonally with your community. Your communication is divine, inspired, and the energy is reflected of 528. It's love. It's pure tone love. It's at the heart. And again, I mentioned it earlier, so I'll say it again. It's important to realize that when Jonathan Goldman, for example, says, oh, no, you can't ascribe love to 528 alone. That's his opinion. I do. And the reason why I do is not only all the things that we've talked about, but the fact is that you're seeing that love is part of just like a frequency dynamic that includes joy. It includes faith, which is this powerful, heartfelt, loving intention, and it's got to be faithful. You've got to have faith in it. If you don't realize that that's a critical element within the creative process and the scientific process, then you're missing the key of the house of David that opens the doors to higher consciousness and divine revelation and divine communion. You're missing the big picture that Jesus was talking about when he was preaching love. So the 528, faith, love, joy, bravery, braveheart. How many of us are actually brave enough to tell this stuff? And then what happens to the brave ones like myself? Censored. I haven't been able to put out a newsletter in 6 years due to the censorship. I have 36,000 people on my email list that want my newsletters. I can't get to them because of the censorship geopolitically, to keep us divided, to keep us ignorant. So at any rate, that's the political problem. Going back to DNA, you raised some beautiful, beautiful concepts here, looking at from Bruce Lipton to the other issues that you raised with Nassim Haramein and genetics, the whole dynamics of water engaged in DNA. I have a recommendation for anybody that has a snorkel and mask and can go out into a nice swimming pool on a sunny day and look at the floor of the pool. On the floor of the pool, you'll see a dynamic pattern of light. Look very carefully. I do this about 3 or 4 times a week when I go for a swim. Look at the pattern of light that's formed from different waves coming off the walls of the pool. What happens is that those waves of light show specifically interference nodes, N-O-D-E-S. That is the N6 node. That now I'm talking about not just Nassim Haramein's work, but Russia's top space-time physicist, Hartmut Muller, that studied the macrocosmic space as well as microscopic spaces and realized that in the physics of creation, where physical manifestation occurs. He calls it the N6 node. Now look at the bottom of the pool. The waves come together. The light waves are seen, and a node, a round little node, is shown. And out of that node now comes a pattern that looks like a DNA sequence. It looks like a genetic sequence. And if you look carefully enough, you can even see the cross rungs, just like the geneticists tell us and show us in depicting the DNA strands. It's right there in front of your eyes, created by what? The frequencies of light that are at the top. Now think about this concept. You have the light hits the top of the pool, the wave at the top of the pool. It disappears. You can't see it in the water until it manifests as a projection on the bottom of the pool. Now you're talking about Nassim Haramein's work, what he shared about, the entire field of existence now is an electromagnetic dynamic. This is exactly what I witnessed in the pool. And if you look carefully enough, you'll see it too. It's empirical evidence. It's right in front of your face. This is what Da Vinci was into. The ancient mystery school Pythagorean mathematicians who really knew about the mathematics and how important they were into focusing, studying how does nature work. And this is the essence of it.
Right. I completely agree. And I believe that you have the acoustics, the mathematics, the geometry completely accurate. I think that 528 and 639 on your color wheel is spot on. But I think the other 7 frequencies, I think their color's off. And the only reason why I disagree with you on that is because I can see a lot more of the color spectrum than most people would ever believe. And when I look at the human biofield on a human or an individual or any form of life, I see the colors in different places. And that's what I'm working on putting into a understandable format that's utilizable in the book that I'm writing, with the intention of helping people comprehend where the light is and how it works. I see that the 174, the bottom note, I see that as black because that's what grounds you to the earth, right? Carbon, material, matter. It's all ash, volcanic. It's all dark matter, like matter, right? So it's particle. And then I see 285 as red. That's the knees on the human biofield. That's where you surrender or you have passion. And I see 396 as orange, and I see that as the enthusiastic field where connection happens and takes place. And I see 417 as yellow because that's willpower. That's in your stomach. That's where you concentrate. It's where you focus. And I see 528 as green. That's the love and the bravery and the compassion, where you can either choose love or hate. Those are the only 2 things that store in the heart, right? As pure emotions. And I see 639 as that teal turquoise color that you have associated on your perfect circle of sound. And I see 741 as that dark blue, or the pure blue, indigo blue. And I think that that has to do with all of our thought functions, the cerebral, the third eye, the cerebellum, everything, both hemispheres of the brain. And the crazy thing is, when you use both hemispheres of the brain, when you're able to think from both perspectives, masculine and feminine, negative and positive, what happens? You're combining blue and red, both hemispheres, left and right. What's the next color? Purple. It takes blue and red to make purple. And I see 851 as that magnetic field on top of the head. That's purple. And the last one would be 963, that white light right above the top of the human biofield. And I see the human biofield working in that beautiful 8 cycle through those 9 colors continuously. Just like your heart beats blood through your system in order to keep all the information floating around, the biofield is beating all of your electrical information into the field consistently 24/7, so that everything in the field is aware of your exact resonance. So anything that's showing up in your life, you like it or not, aware or not, it's in complete resonance with you. And if it showed up, it's because it is you, so to speak, on an energetic level. And I think that this is why the book is going to be so extraordinary, because it's going to teach people how to work with those colors, how to take trapped emotions or memories out of those colors using the 9 chord creative frequencies, those pure tone lights and sounds, and store information that they want so that things in the fields can resonate with them so they can create more harmony, because we shouldn't have to deal with problems when it comes to health. We shouldn't have to deal with problems when it comes to wealth and existence on this planet, in relationship or anything. Everything that is in resonance with us should show up immediately in perfect timing. And so I just wanted to interject and compliment what you said by saying that.
Well, thank you. You know, first of all, I'm really impressed with your level of intelligence and grasp, not only of my work, but all these other contributors to human intelligence and consciousness. I love what you're doing with the solfeggio frequencies in the perfect circle of sound. I want to just add that I'm excited about your new book. And I want to say that your criticism of my applications of the colors, I think, is reasonable. And I've known that from the beginning. First of all, the frequencies of 174, 285, and the 963 are not solfeggio frequencies. So for the first several years between 1998 and let's say 2003, I wasn't even looking at the qualities and particularly the colors of those particular frequencies. I tried to stay focused on the solfeggio notes, the 6. In doing that, I found that there was great controversy, and there has been even to this very day. So what you're advancing as a deeper understanding, I'm looking forward to reading your book and integrating it, because where I had to stop was where the world's leading authorities stopped in applying colors to the specific frequencies. Gadaldi Dinshaw was one of several, one of the earliest. So when you now stated that you're comfortable with the green associated with 528 and the bluish of 639, that's what you said, correct?
That's correct.
Right. That's what I had to start with, because I realized, coming from Oriental theory and theology and medicine, I had to realize that green has got to be the color of love. It's got to be the heart chakra color. So there's where I started. And then I attempted to apply the other colors to the best of my ability. I believe that I might have been wrong, but I say that I was pretty close.
Right.
Now what you're saying is that you're intuiting this, you're getting these downloads, and you have an inner vision of what these frequencies and colors are associated with. And what I would like as a scientist is confirmation. This is why we need to have an institute that studies these issues, and then we'll have a better understanding. In the meantime, I think that it's extremely valuable of this discussion, the inquiry, and I think that the manner in which, unfortunately, there have been so many non-experts and trolls, counterintelligence agents assigned to discredit 528, disparage Dr. Leonard Horowitz, suppress this intelligence, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, this discussion. Right now, if you go on to try to search what you're talking about, this is why I hope that your book is going to come out and really give a full revelation to this topic. It's all dissonant, what's currently being published on the internet with regard to the colors and the frequency charts. It's for me, it's nauseating, because I know that when I started, I did the best I could do as the pioneer of this entire field, based on what others before me had done, the experts had done, and what reasonable common sense would apply. For example, 432, which is a big rage. We've talked about this briefly. Other topics are more important in this discussion, but it's an orange color. you mentioned that 417 you believe is orange. Well, 417
396 is what I believe is orange, and 417 I believe is yellow.
okay. So, okay. So 417 you say is yellow,
Yellow.
right? That's the will, the will area, right? And then the 396, well, think about 396. How close is that to 432? That's about what? Uh,
Very
uh,
close.
very close. And so that's the color. It's not a solfeggio, but it's what the big counterintelligence efforts to discredit 528 and the entire solfeggio and the frequency charts and the color, it's all off. However, despite the counterintelligence disinformation, I recommend 432 for certain conditions. In my opinion, it's a good sexual chakra balancing frequency. So I can be proud to know that I've done the best that I could do given the intelligence that I've had, given the scientific research that I've been able to gather and then basically work off of to bring this understanding. But I love your whole concept. And that's why I not only applaud it, I encourage you to get this book out as soon as you can. I think the entire planet needs it.
Well, thank you. And I completely agree. I wasn't trying to discredit you in any way. I'm just saying that
No.
from an intuitive insight, I'm going to be doing my best to correlate it with color theory, color therapy, color science, electromagnetic science, and tying them all together, hopefully with a few other fields to back my intuitive sight of what's
I love
going
it.
on in
Yeah,
the.
that's wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very valid what you're doing. I think that the best, most brilliant minds, look at Einstein, how even the concept, you mentioned it briefly when you said that you're drawing all of the experiences to you, you're responsible for your reality. It's kind of like what Einstein said, the word accident. There are no accidents. There should be erased from the dictionary, he said.
Well, I
You know,
gotta compliment that, because when it comes to art, and I am an artist, self-taught, I love art. When you take red and yellow, in the middle is orange. When you take yellow and teal, in the middle is green. When you take teal and purple, in the middle is blue. So, I think that you can take a paint palette and you can figure out what the main colors of existence are all on your own. But because we have analytical brains and we like science and people need proof, I'm doing my best to correlate that information to do so. But I would completely agree with you. I think all major artists throughout history have said that there's no such thing as accidents. It's all
right.
resonant. It's meant to be.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with what you just said.
And I'm sure that there's no accident that on this particular day, we're producing this video for the rest of the planet in response to Goldman's production just came out recently. And I'm sure we're on a divine appointment, so to speak.
Yes, I think so. My birthday just passed a couple days ago, and I think this is exactly what I asked for.
Nice, 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 nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're done. What do you
Okay.
think?
I think so. I think that's pretty much all the major topics. Is there anything else you'd like to address when it comes to the 528 frequency? Anything you'd like to close with restoring the history or the information of it for those who are listening and not aware of it fully?
Just a commercial. Here's a brief commercial.
Okay.
I use 528 in everything that I do. It's basically all of the nutraceuticals, the electroceuticals. And like what you mentioned, we have fantastic responses from people because we're dealing with this magnificent intelligence and we're applying it to the best of our ability for therapeutics. And so, our best-selling product is Liquid Dentist. It's even replaced OxySilver, which is an outstanding full broad spectrum antimicrobial, antiviral, vitally important in today's day and age. A lot of people are not only poisoned and don't want to take, they have allergies to some of the antibiotics. People need alternatives. The best alternative in that realm is OxySilver with 528 frequency. And it's the first nutraceutical that's to be used with prayer because it honors the intelligence that we've just talked about, how powerful heartfelt loving intention is. So when you take this, it becomes a triple superconductor of healing therapeutic energy. because again, the water is a liquid crystal superconductor of sound and light. The silver is a superconductor of electrical energy, as so is your heart is a generator and a transmitter of that loving prayer. So when you take oxysilver, the best way I use it, you can use it once a day, 1 capsule a day, but basically you take it with prayer at the first sign of a cold or flu. I close my eyes. I see white light pouring down through my crown chakra, and I send that light down through my entire body with the prayer. It's the first nutraceutical to be developed that is to be used with prayer because it honors the power, the prayer power within you. So you'll be amazed. Within 5 seconds, 10 seconds, you open your eyes, those flu symptoms have, and you don't get. That's what the most popular way of using oxysilver. But even that has been the commercial value of oxysilver has been overtaken by Liquid Dentist, which is an outstanding product. I won't go into it, but go to liquiddentist.net, liquiddentist.net, and the new website has a lot of great information on it of how important this is of integrating 528 into your oral healthcare regimen, as well as your general healthcare concept. You can go to oxysilver.com and get a whole download of great information about oxysilver. If you start there, there's other resources. 528revolution.com. 528 Revolution is the first website that we developed for educating the public about what 528 is. It's a little outdated, but the greatest articles, most recent research is on medicalveritas.org in the bioenergetics section. And then you can pull down the submenu. You'll see 528 science section and a number of papers that are listed there. I just recently published a peer-reviewed scientific paper in Acta Scientific Medical Journal on COVID-19 induction of cancer. And I end that paper. It's a science review paper. It's a very important paper. It ends with this whole concept of what you're talking about, the biofield capability and how 528 as a core creative frequency plays into how we can deal with cancers. Because again, you go back in science to Royal Raymond Rife's work, the microscopist who showed that you could vibrate with sound and light viruses. We know that sunlight kills COVID. Sunlight, again, the same concept. Well, you can vibrate the body. I use 528 frequency and I bathe myself in green light for health conditions. So there's a massive amount of science, and you can go to medicalveritas.org and get a great amount of information. My own personal website, my official website is drlenhorowitz.com, drlenhorowitz.com. Javen, God bless you. It's a privilege for me to be working with you, and I'm so thankful that you're bringing all this in great information to the planet as my partner, no less.
Well, thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. And I just want to end this by saying that if people want more information, they can go to your latest website, healthyworldshop.com. And I also have a website that I help you market your products through, the 528store.com, as well as a few of my own products. I have a field shield that utilizes the wave memory technology that we're bringing to the world. And I want to end this segment by inviting anybody who has resonance to this information, who's working in these fields, such as Jonathan Goldman, Kevintrudeau, Greggbraden, Bruce Lipton, any of the names we mentioned, Garyspivey. If any of these people want to further the communication of this information and connect the bridge, so to speak, that infinite bridge, I'm always here to do interviews, and I'm going to be promoting this information as much as possible. So thank you for joining me to clarify the history on 528 and to address these this uprising questions about the science.
Yeah, wonderful. Excellent. All right. God bless you. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.